Good evening, everyone. I'd like to call this meeting of the Mercer Island School Board to order at 7:01 p.m. Do I have a motion to establish the agenda?
I move we establish the agenda.
Second? Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Agenda is established. And our first agenda item is public input. If anybody besides Nikhil would like to sign in to do public input, this is your chance. And welcome, Nikhil. I'm going to read about our guidelines before you get started. This meeting is a meeting of the board in public. If you'd like to address the board on a particular issue, please limit your remarks to no more than 3 minutes. And there is a timer. Appoint a spokesperson if the concern is a group concern, and if desired, provide written documentation to the board's secretary, Donna Kolaski, in order to be included as part of the official board minutes. The board may direct the superintendent to respond to the issues expressed at a later date. Thank you, and your timer will begin shortly. Go ahead.
And distracted driving is like the leading cause of death in the U.S. for teenagers. And with the increase of technology, this number is only going to continue to rise. And high school is when kids start driving. Like sophomore year is like the beginning, when everyone starts getting their licenses, and they need to like know like how important like their lives are at risk like every time they get behind that wheel, and how just looking at your phone for like a couple seconds can like impact their lives and even kill them. And I was on a website. It's called zendrive.com, and it like rates all the schools in the country. And so I clicked on it, like our high school, and it's ranked 231 out of 331 schools in our county regarding how dangerous the drivers are. And so that's a C rating, so that's not very good. And then last year, 2 of my close friends were in car accidents, and one of them was driving to school. He was on 40th at the stoplight, and he was like waiting. It was a red light. All of a sudden, another high schooler kid, hits him from the back. He texts me. He's like, "Yo, Nikhil, I won't be able to make class today. Like, I just got in a serious car accident." And I was like, "Wow, what happened?" He's like, "The kid behind me was distracted. He was looking down, and he hit me." And I was like, "That's not good." And also, another one of my friends, his dad was driving on the strip near St. Monica's, and one of the high schoolers wasn't paying attention and rear-ended him, and his car was completely totaled, and he's super lucky he didn't have to go to the hospital. And I'm just asking like for like the high school to raise more awareness for distracted driving, and maybe like incorporate like this into like the Bridges curriculum, and just talk about like how every time you're behind the wheel, just looking at your phone can cause severe impact to anyone's lives. And just like, you don't want your last thing ever to do in your life is be reading a text or sending a text. Thank you.
Thank you, Nikhil. Superintendent Kolaski, would you like to make any comments at this time?
We will certainly pass that information on to the high school administration as well to let them know that you expressed some concerns regarding distracted driving, so thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Kellen. Are you here? And while you're coming up to the podium, I do want to thank Nikhil for bringing attention to a safety issue, and there are probably more things that we could talk about as well at a later date. Go ahead, Kellen.
Hi. I want to talk about, I understand that Mercer Island is going through some troubles funding a lot of the services that the city provides, and big part of the problem is because the city depends a lot on our property tax, as it makes a majority of our tax funding. And the reason why I bring this up is because a lot of my classmates and close friends are worried about some services getting cut, such as some parts of the youth and family services, which oftentimes they depend on. And I'm wondering whether or not the city is looking towards the property tax bill on that Washington state passed on the restriction on 1% increase on the property tax, and wondering whether or not you guys are for or against that bill. Thank you.
Thank you. Donna?
That one's difficult to address, being that that's really a question for city, and whether or not this body wants to make a determination on a city issue is somewhat problematic. So again, your question really goes towards a city funding issue versus a school board funding issue.
But thank you for your concern about school funding. We are also addressing that issue with our levy that's coming up in 2018 for school funding. So please pay close attention to that with your civics class. Thank you. This is the last call for any other public input? Okay. With that, public input is now closed. Thank you. Next up, we have a proclamation.
Yes, we do. Governor Jay Inslee has proclaimed January as School Board Recognition Month. And this marks the 23rd year of the annual observation initiated by the National School Board Association in 1995. So this is a recognition that occurs across the nation. And the Washington State School Directors Association, the Association of Educational Service Districts, and the broader education community take time in January to honor school board members from Washington's 295 school districts and 9 elected educational service district boards. So to recognize our directors, I would ask that all of you come in front of the podium here. So just some numbers. In total, Washington school directors govern districts serving 1.1 million students with a combined annual budget of approximately $15 billion and employing about 120,000 people. It's a tremendous responsibility shouldered by our locally elected school board members, and as they navigate an array of complex educational and social issues, let us thank our school board members for their service and for working toward a strong and equitable system of public education that supports all students. So just to quote Tom Brokaw, "There is a place in America to take a stand. It is public education. It is the underpinning of our cultural and political system." So thank you to each of you in recognition for School Board Recognition Month. And then we're going to do a photo op because we have social media and we want to make sure you get recognized. Sure, we'll do one more. Thank you all.
Thank you very much. Okay, we're going to move on to item 2, partial governance process monitoring, and we have board policy 1800 OE 11, facilities and capital assets, 2014 bond project update, and acceptance of building commissioning report for IMS, resolution number 664.
So here we have Brandy with 2 big binders. If they were any taller, I don't think we'd be able to see Brandy with a resolution for a final step in the process for Islander Middle School. Brandy.
Yes, thank you. So tonight, I'm here to ask you to provide a formal acceptance of our commissioning report on Islander Middle School. Commissioning is an activity that is undertaken on all of our construction projects, but because IMS had the OSPI funding match, we are required to pass a resolution, but we have done the same thing on the high school and on Northwood. And just a quick Reader's Digest version of what commissioning is. As building technology has evolved over the last 30 years, the systems have become more and more and more complex, right? So you go into a classroom and there's a thermostat, but you have a range in which you can adjust the temperature. You go in and there's a sensor that determines there's activity in the room, and it will bring the lights on. But if those lights get left on, like in a hallway, they all get swept off at a certain time. So there's all this programming that goes into the various systems in the building. And to ensure all of those are running and functioning the way they should, we put those through a commissioning process, which is somebody goes in and tests all of that. In addition, on the big, complex, expensive pieces of equipment like water heaters and air handling units and boilers, there's a very prescribed method for how those have to be connected and started and run through their paces. And so a commissioning agent will witness the startup of all of those pieces of equipment, and this documents all of that process. So we have them if you want to look at them. We have them for the other schools if you're ever interested. So we just need a formal acceptance of that process.
Okay. Anyone like to?
I move we accept the building commissioning of the middle school.
I'll second.
Okay, do we have any discussion or questions for Brandy?
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Okay, hearing none, thank you also, Brandy. All those in favor, say aye.
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 Those opposed? Motion passes 5-0. Thank you very much, Brandy. Okay, item 3, full governance process monitoring. We have OE6, budgeting and the financial planning. And Ty is at the podium. I assume you'll be taking this?
Yes.
Yes. Annually, as part of the governance process model, we okay, it's on. We bring to the board our interpretation of OE6, which is the operational expectation regarding budget and financial planning, and whether or not we believe that we've been in compliance. And as we go through, each of the segments covers each of the different principles within OE6 in terms of what are the prevailing guidelines. And as we've moved through the budget process for the 17-18 school year, we came to the board several times with several reports on the process of how we were developing the budget and what we believed we were doing to meet those guidelines. So tonight we're just asking for the board to vote for compliance, that the superintendent and the district are in compliance with the principles of OE6.
Have a motion?
So I move we find the district in compliance with the requirements of the budget.
I'll second that.
Any discussion?
Sure. I'd like to thank you for the work you've done. I think in relation to the student input earlier today, too, it's pretty important to recognize that school districts have numerous pieces of legislation that direct how we are funded, and we go out to voters with 3 to 4 different levy and bond opportunities throughout every 4 to 6 year period to define how and what we spend our money on. And then I believe you're subject to even deeper scrutiny and audits by the state and transparency of the budget by the public to the public. I think in our consent calendar, we've also got our current budget too, which has very detailed information on all sources of revenue, all expenditures. We have a great deal of contract negotiations as well that are included in the budget. And then I believe now you're doing a 3 or 4 year plan for the budget as well.
Yes.
So as CFO, I think you've got a lot going on and a lot of transparency that earns us trust from voters and the community as to how we spend our money, and that they're sure it's going into the education of our students and in much more directed and specific ways. So I know this has been a very difficult year with the McCleary decision changes, contract negotiations, and numerous other changes that have been going on. So thank you very much for your work, and thank you very much for the huge amount of transparency and numerous intermediate budgets that you've had to produce and throw away and reproduce and throw away. So thank you very much for all that work.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Thank you, David. Any other comments from directors?
I'll just echo Director D'Souza's comments, as well as just add on to the capital projects budgets that you also have to manage from year to year as well. So thank you.
Go ahead.
Echoing the same comments, but I also want to say thank you for the community outreach. You've done a tremendous amount of work since starting. You hit the ground running, and I've seen you speaking with the community at different venues throughout, and the support from your staff has been amazing. So thank you for navigating these waters and bringing us to where we are today.
Thank you. You're welcome.
Okay, echo that as well. So let's take a vote. All those in favor of finding the school district in compliance, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion passes 5-0. Thank you. Okay, and next up, this may be Ty as well.
It is.
So we also have process monitoring for asset protection, OE8.
So operational expectation 8, asset protection, governs how the district protects the assets of the district, mainly through insurance and proper financial controls, ensuring that no single employee has access to amounts beyond what's insured, that all of our buildings are insured for 100% liability. The district does carry insurance through the Washington Schools Risk Management Pool. That's a mouthful. We've gone through our annual claims review. We've recently just submitted, ahead of the deadline, the annual risk assessment. This year's risk assessment revolved around sexual harassment and sexual assault, and what roles and training and guidance the district provides for its staff to protect staff and students as we navigate these environments. So that's going through the process. We will receive the grade for that soon. Our last risk assessment, we had a near perfect score on. So I anticipate, with all the work that our Senior Director of Compliance has put into ensuring that we have proper training for our staff, that we should obtain another high score. We also have very low history of various types of claims in terms of emissions, liability, vehicle. I mean, we do have some vehicle claims, but we do live on an island with some very tight streets. So we do have an occasional bumper, but we are working to bring that down. But as we go through the principles of OE8, we believe that we are in compliance with the expectations outlined for us.
Do I have a motion? And actually, this may be one, since we haven't had partial governance process monitoring on this one as frequently as the finance and budgeting one. I may read through each item on this one if nobody's opposed to that idea, just to review for all of us and for all the students in the audience who are studying civics. Any objections to that? I won't read through all the interpretations.
Can we do an aggregate vote at the end, or do we?
Yes,
Okay.
because it's level 1 monitoring, we don't need to do it item by item, but we could do it in one fell swoop, but I'd like to read those out. So for OE8 asset protection, number 1, The district is to maintain insurance coverage on district property against theft and casualty losses to 100% of replacement value and maintain adequate liability insurance for board, staff, and district. Number 2, maintain insurance coverage against liability losses to board members, staff, and the district itself in an amount that is reasonable for school districts of comparable size and character. Number 3, not allow unbonded personnel access to material amounts of district and school funds. Number 4, ensure that facilities and equipment are not subject to improper wear and tear or insufficient maintenance. Number 5, not unnecessarily expose the district, the board, or staff to legal liability. And number 6, protect intellectual property, information, files, and fixed assets from loss or significant damage. Number 7, properly preserve and dispose of all records related to affairs or business of the district. Number 8, not invest in securities that are insecure or not authorized by law. Number 9, not acquire, lease, encumber, or dispose of real property. And number 10, not endanger the district's public image, credibility, or its ability to accomplish its mission. And that concludes the report. Do I have a motion? We didn't do the motion yet, did we?
I move that we find the district in compliance of OE8, asset protection.
Thank you. Second?
Second.
Any discussion? Okay. All right. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Okay, motion passes 5-0. Thank you, Ty. Okay. And our next item, number 4, is the consent agenda. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
And that's a motion to approve the consent agenda. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? Okay, and the consent agenda is approved 5-0. Thank you. And next up we have the Superintendent's Report.
So just a few things for you this evening. First of all, we are getting ready for next year. It's January 2018, so we are now planning for the 18-19 school year, and one of the pieces of that planning is starting to look at courses that will be added to course catalogs. And so just to let the board know that at the middle school, the 6th grade elective rotation expansion at IMS proposes that all 6th grade students have the choice to take a rotation of PE Health Spanish or PE Health Tech during the 18-19 school year. So this will give another option for 6th graders to choose with a foreign language component in the rotation as well. So just moving forward in the planning for the new school year. Also, coming forward in the next couple of months through OSPI is a new statewide accountability measures rollout that we are really just getting information about. So I don't have a lot to share with you other than a timeline and what some of the pieces are that we anticipate. Mid-December was the preliminary release that really was very preliminary and didn't give us much other than a cut score that they then, when staff went to training, said, no, don't look at that, it's not really accurate. January is supposed to be the time when we have the opportunity, as do all districts, for data cleanup and support. February we'll get some preview identification, and then the intent is early March for a public release of the information. This combined multiple measure system is being put in place to ostensibly identify the lowest performing 5%. It is using multiple measures that will include proficiency measures, growth measures, English language learner progress measurement, graduation when a high school is included, and then a student quality of student success measure, which is defined in a multiple of things, including absenteeism. If it's high school, it'll include ninth grade failure rate, and it will also include dual credit that is given. It's going to be looking back 3 years, the past 3 years, and then giving us a score for that, and then looking forward 3 years. All of this is put in place because of the Every Student Succeeds Act and how Washington's plan to the Department of Ed is implementing the Every Student Succeeds Act. So there will be plenty more information to come as staff gains more information. The first training that Jennifer and another staff member went to, it was unfortunate because even those who were presenting really didn't have all the information to really define what this is going to look like. And our understanding is the plan has actually gone back to the Federal Department of Education and hasn't come back to say, yes, we approve the decisions you've made on it. But we will continue to provide you information as we get it. Also, just for your information, there is an upcoming WASDA legislative conference on Sunday afternoon, January 28th through January 29th. It's meeting with legislators in Olympia, and so if any of you are interested in attending that, if you could just let me know, we'll get you signed up for that as well. And just the last announcement, some of you know because you were there as well, the DECA, our high school students participated in the DECA competition, and I believe we had 207 Mercer Island High School participants, and my understanding is more than 80 of them are moving forward in the competition. So a great showing for the high school at the DECA competition, and we're excited for those who are moving forward, and we'll get you that information when we get it as well.
Thank you, Donna. Any directors like to give their board announcements?
Sure. Yeah, I'd echo the DECA conference, as it was lovely, and it was my 5th or 6th year of conscription as a judge, so I really enjoy that, and it was great seeing the amazing students and how quickly they think on their heads, on their feet, rather. And I was thinking back that that would not be a course I'd be ready to take when I'm in the 9th, 10th, or 11th grade. So it's pretty amazing the type of skills our kids have. So that's one. And number two, I am on the PAC with the middle school. And clearly we had a not so happy New Year welcome back issue. And I will echo the appreciation to the school district and all the professionalism shown during that event, and the professionalism shown during the reunification as well. And I think we understand with all the letters that have been sent out, we've kept the community informed. I appreciate, again, as a civics note, the partnership we share between the school district and the police department, and the shared letter from Chief Holmes and yourself, Donna, was very, very telling towards that, and really spoke to the strength of that partnership and how we share in the success of our community and the success of our students. So as part of the PAC in the middle school is asking for input from parents as to how that all went, and if they have any other feedback around that. They've encouraged us to seek it out as PAC members. I have gotten some feedback from community members, as have other PAC members. So these are parents, teachers, and other advisors to the principals at the middle school. And we'll take that and discuss it, and again work with the professionals. I know as professionals, You and our communications director and the police chief have had much more experience with this than any one of us. And I think you've done a great job of taking all the feedback, intersecting with best practices and professional checklists and all that around this, and coming up with a great set of conclusions. And I think that's the similar that is going to happen in the middle school as well. And this is an idea as an opportunity for parents to send PAC members. I think you can look it up on the website as well. Email went out to all middle school parents about this, so they can contact the PAC members. So thank you very much for that, and for everyone for giving us feedback.
Thank you, Director D'Souza. And Donna, did you want to, as part of your report, update us on anything or make a statement to officially?
I believe the statement that went out on the most recent was from the police chief and myself, kind of concluding all of the pieces that have happened with the security issues at both the high school and the middle school. We are moving forward in a very thorough debrief. As Director D'Souza was mentioning, we spent the day after the middle school in debrief sessions with several entities, central office staff, leadership team, city team, including, of course, MIPD and all of the other leaders that were involved, and are continuing then to work our safety plans for all the schools as well as the district, so that the lessons learned from these events are then integrated into the safety plans as we continue to learn from our experiences and how to do the best that we can. Every crisis is unique and special in and of itself, and so you do your best to prepare for it, but oftentimes it is thinking on your feet because it's different than what happened the last time. But again, having the plan in place and debriefing the plan and prepping staff and students as much as we can is what helps to make the whole action come into play in a way that is as smooth as possible when you're evacuating 1,100 students from a campus. So lots of lessons learned, and they're being integrated into the plans, and so that we will move forward, and next time if it happens, we will be even more skillful at integrating and implementing a crisis plan.
Thank you. Okay, Director Giannini-Upton, do you have any report?
I'd like to start with echoing the same thanks to the district, to city staff, district staff, volunteers, everyone who helped to make that event successful and safe for our students. And I trust that those lessons learned will improve as we move forward. But huge thanks for that. And recognizing that it impacts our entire district and all of our families and community members. So thank you. I also want to mention that being invited to judge at DECA for the first time was a fantastic experience. And my background in the performing arts, it was fun to spend a day role-playing and use those skills. But I was just so impressed with all of the students that I got to see. Really great work. And then finally, I want to point out an event that happened last night at West Mercer Elementary School. It was their first ever family literacy night, where families were invited in for pizza dinner and dessert, and then did some breakout sessions where we learned some skills. We worked with our kids and developed some literacy skills and great questions to ask. I really appreciate Principal Best's thinking of this and finding a new and unique way to bring our community together to celebrate outside of the usual chaos of winter dances or carnivals. And these are all wonderful events, but for our families who may not be as excited about the chaos and noise and all of that, this was just a wonderful opportunity to reach out and engage another segment of our community that I kind of feel is sometimes missed. So I want to commend Principal Best and Associate Principal Ravenscraft, and thank West Mercer PTSA for their support of it in providing the pizza dinner and dessert. And I think we had almost 400 RSVP'd for that event, and I think almost all of them there. We filled the gym. So for a first-time event, it was incredibly successful. So thank you.
Director Lurie?
Thank you. I do also want to echo what Director D'Souza and Director Giannini Upton commented about regarding the recent evacuation of the middle school and the other events that happened at the high school. And what I want to focus on is what I've heard and what I've also seen is the transparency of the communication that our families and community are receiving from the district. We have a lot of armchair quarterbacks who think that they can do things better, and which is great to have suggestions because things do impact everyone differently. However, to be able to get an answer of this is why we did this, and directly and publicly I know has been very appreciated. I think that does a lot for our district. It does a lot for our parents, for our community, and for our students to know why and to know what's happening. It's just as important as what is happening. So thank you for that. I think the community itself is, from what I'm hearing, extraordinarily pleased with the information and the reasons why. So thank you. I did. Some of this information, I did attend the PTA council meeting this week, and that is the message from that we heard from a lot of the reps, PTA reps that were there. Is a lot had questions of why was this decision made or this communication used, and understanding goes a long way.
Thank you, Director Jorgensen. Next.
I'd like to echo Director Lurie's comments, so thank you for saying those. I'd also like to share an appreciation for the high school community, and specifically the 30 or so administrators, teachers, staff, students, school resource officer, and therapy dog Finley for their extremely thoughtful video that they created, and I think probably a lot on their personal time. This video was made in response to some isolated incidences before the winter break. And I just thought the messages were very thoughtful and very personal for all the people that spoke. And, sharing that Mercer Island High School is a safe place to learn socially, emotionally, and academically. The school's emphasis on inclusion, equity, and kindness, and the importance of making responsible choices. So I don't think anyone could watch this video and not think how lucky our community is to have such wonderful teachers and staff and such a caring teachers and staff.
Thank you. I will echo all four of you and add my own appreciation for the Youth and Family Services, which hadn't been mentioned, as such an important part of our community, especially during a time of crisis and anxiety and consequences, learning about consequences. So I'm really grateful that we have those counselors in place at our schools and hope to continue to support them. I attended the City Council meeting on Tuesday evening and got to see the swearing in of the new council members and the election and swearing in of the new mayor and deputy mayor. And we have Mayor Bertlin now, and the deputy mayor is Councilmember Neese. And it was really exciting to see us vote in a female mayor, and we have a female in the position of city manager. And then on our board, we have Donna Kolaski as superintendent and myself as president. And so I'm just really excited to see our community have all these women in leadership, and I think it says a lot about our community, and hopefully will be a great role modeling for all the young women in our community and those of you sitting right here in this room. So I was really pleased with that and think it's it's a rare event. I was told that there's a really small number of female mayors in our country, and for us to have many women in leadership, I'm sure, is rarer still. So. The other thing that happened at the City Council meeting was the Martin Luther King Jr. proclamation. Apparently our city had not had its own proclamation about Martin Luther King Jr. Day, and in cooperation with 1MI, an organization on our island that looks out for diversity and equity in our community, there was a new proclamation made and presented, and that was a really interesting and exciting event as well. And I just want to shout out to the Martin Luther King Day coming up on Monday, and hope that our students, while they may enjoy a day off from school, to observe it as a day of service. And I hope that everyone has thought of some way that they can give back to our community as part of that, not a day off, but a day on, to provide and give back to our community for those who may be in need. And I think that's all I have. So... I think we've got everything. Is there any other comments or questions at this time? Okay. So we are going to end this portion of the meeting, and we will move into executive session. So do I have a motion to make that move?
I move we recess into executive session.
And this executive, thank you, and second?
Second.
Okay, and all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay, so we will move into executive session to discuss the performance of a public employee pursuant to RCW 4230-110-1G. This session is closed to the public, and we will probably meet for somewhere between 30 to 60 minutes. No final action will be taken. We'll come back in to adjourn the final meeting, but there will be no other action. So we will now conclude this portion of the meeting. Thank you.